unknown, and we're going to talk about him next week. Now, I know what you were all thinking. What in the world are we going to talk about tonight? Speaking of Nehemiah, speaking of the city, upside down, Jerusalem, and I would argue ours. Speaking of God's heart for the city and lost people and culture. Speaking of Christians going, not running away from, but going to the city and loving the city and preaching the gospel right in the heart, surrounded by people who don't know God. We are going to put before you tonight, right now, some new vision, some huge exciting changes for what's coming down the road and what we believe God is leading us towards. We're going to put in front of you right now 3 new things, 3 changes we are going to make to the ministry here and what we believe God is leading us to. Now, changes always mean new vision. And new vision most of the time starts with problems. Yes, you heard me right. Most of the time when you hear about new vision or changes, most of the time changes, new vision starts with problems. For the last, I was trying to figure out today, I think about 2 years, but maybe more like 2.5 years, we being myself and the leadership at Solid Rock, the pastors and the elders and some of our kind of core leadership team, those of us responsible to love you guys and serve you guys, take the posture of servants and of leaders. We have been wrestling with 2 problems for years now. If you could climb into the back of our elders' meetings and pastors' meetings, and if you could listen to conversations we make with people outside of here we love and respect and look up to, we have been wrestling and seeking God and praying and fasting and questioning and talking and conversating for, I think, over 2 years now about 2 separate problems. Let me walk you through what the 2 problems we think are, and then with what we believe is the solution by God's Spirit. The first problem is the city of Portland. Would you agree? Like I said, I love our city to the core. I'm here for life, God willing, but my city is jacked up, to quote from Jose, who's right here in the front row. My city is in desperate need of Jesus. All the things we are talking about tonight. There is a massive gaping hole waiting for the church to rise up, for disciples of Jesus to rise up, and for the light of the world to start shining and stop hiding in our dark city. About 2.5 years ago, I gave a teaching called Born After Midnight, which was kind of a question. What if I'm wrong? What if Portland changed? In our lifetime, what if our city, which is known all around the world as an epicenter for paganism and liberalism, what if our city was rocked to the core, transformed, for lack of a better word, by the gospel of Jesus and the Spirit of God? What if God did something here, now, in our lifetime, not like in a book somewhere or in a biography somewhere or some place, far away on the other side of the ocean, but what if God did something here and now? And not with like great, amazing celebrity, but with people like us, with normal, average, bent out of shape, people like us. What if God did something here? And what if in our lifetime, because of our work and effort and prayer and fasting and faith, and because more than anything of God's Spirit moving in huge ways, what if our city was changed? What if God did something huge? And after the teaching, I invited anybody who wanted to show up back here at 12:01 in the morning, right after midnight, and pray all night long. If you want, hey, no warning, no flyer, no PR, but if you want to join us, we invite you back. And hundreds of you showed up. Anybody remember? Anybody here? You guys remember? We showed up and we prayed for hours and hours. It was I will never forget the night. We prayed for hours. Some of you guys are insane, which is why we love you. Some people showed up at 7 for the way, stayed through church, stayed through the prayer meeting, and left from here at like 4:30 in the morning to go open at Starbucks. You people are bizarre. And I think God did something, in my mind, God did something in us as a community. Yes, in me, but in us as a community that night, that moment, that prayer meeting. I think God sparked something in us. I think he gave us some hope that maybe it's more than idealism, maybe revival, a move of God, whatever language you employ, maybe it's not impossible. And that night led to something called 7, which we've done now for 2 summers, 3 times for the last 2 years. 7, if you are new around here, is 7 days of prayer and fasting for revival in Portland, Oregon. Every June, we take 7 days of our lives and we give up food and we give up some sleep and we give up a lot of comfort and we seek God. Not for ourselves, not for Solid Rock even, but for our city. And we ask God with prayer and with fasting and with some desperation, Jesus, would you please move in a huge, massive way in our city, our lifetime. We won't give up, we won't quit, we don't cave. God, would you move? In the last 2 years, now 21 days now total of prayer and fasting have been amazing and life-changing for me. Because, and I think I'm not alone, in my heart and in the heart of our community, I think what God's birthed in us, it is a greater vision and a greater desire to look at our city, which right now is a wreck, and to seek the transformation of our city. And it's made, I can speak on behalf of the leadership at Solid Rock, and in particular myself, it's made our goal no longer a big mega church in the suburbs, which nothing wrong with a big church in the suburbs, but it's made our goal a move of God in our city, which is way bigger than Solid Rock and the Way and whatever church you are a part of, way bigger than Building T and Friday nights and Sundays, which is huge and citywide and church-wide. Is going to take thousands of people and churches and leaders and prayer and movement and faith and courage and risk-taking. But for us now, we feel like the measure of success is no longer like how many people can we get in here. The measure now of success is outside these walls. Can we change our city? Or can we be a part of God changing our city? But the problem we have been wrestling with the last 2 years is, okay, we love prayer and we don't love fasting, but it's awesome and it's good and it's important. And we love seeking God and praying for a move of God. But do you ever feel like at some point we should do something? I mean, you ever feel like, to be honest, between me and you, like prayer is amazing, fasting is great, but should we do something? I mean, at some point, teachings from Nehemiah 1 on the city and God's heart become, I think, empty rhetoric and shallow hype if we don't do something. And for years now, we have been wrestling with, should we do something? Should we step out in faith? Should we take some kind of risk? Should we do something in order to reach our city with the gospel? Now, that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the way. You guys, me, us. Yes, you heard me right. The way, don't misunderstand me, is, I think, amazing. What God is doing here among us on Friday nights as a community of friends and brothers and sisters from all over the city, to me, is mind-blowing. In the city of Portland, Oregon, where there are more dogs than Christians, true story, on Friday nights, with people with us, God is moving and he is transforming our lives and he's drawing people here, and I'm blown away. But that said, what you are looking, if you are new around here, what you are looking at all around you right now, what is taking place right now, is not, to be honest, what we intended the way to be in the beginning. About 6 years ago, there was a group of people, myself included, and the now elders at Solid Rock, and my dad, and the pastors, and we started dreaming about what a new church on the west side of Portland could look like and feel like and do in God's kingdom. And when you plant a church, you start with like some core things that everybody does, like Acts chapter 2, the teaching of the scriptures, the Lord's Supper, baptism, gospel, okay, Jesus, right? He's like the center of everything. But then when you plant a church, it's like you have a blank canvas almost, and you open up your eyes and you ask God's Spirit, all right, what's your heart? What's our role? There are other churches here. What's our role? What makes us unique by your Spirit? What are you calling us, Jesus, to do in the kingdom in our city? And one of the things God spoke to our hearts before the church was planted, like 6 years ago, the church is about 5.5 years old now, was to pour into you guys, to college students and 20-somethings and young people, the emerging generation. When you step back and look at the church as a whole in America, the church is hemorrhaging young people. Every year, 3,000 churches close their doors, I read the other day, 80% of churches in America are plateauing numerically and starting to decline. And most of the loss in the church is people our age. Young people, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, the least church demographic, I hate that word, but the least church demographic in America is 18 to 25-year-olds. Now, in case you are new around here, there are quite a few 18 to 25-year-olds all around you, which I think is amazing. And when God spoke to our hearts years ago, we believe God called us to be a church that outside of the nucleus of what we are, Jesus, Lord's Supper, baptism, a church that is passionate about pouring into a generation and some people who maybe are undervalued in other places or maybe even ignored. And we said, let's reach out to those people. Let's be intentional about loving those people and helping those people grow in Jesus. Not because we're like, hey, what demographic should we market? We are way not that smart. If we could, we probably would, but we're kind of thick-headed. But because we believe Jesus' Spirit was leading us to what you are looking at now. So I started a Bible study with 6 guys. Myself, Brooke, who's playing the drums tonight, making announcements, Michael Watson, who's leading worship, Brandon Moser, who's right there in the back, and 1 or 2 others. We started a Bible study, and then later on, we opened up the Bible study to girls, and the whole deal exploded. Like overnight, people started showing up in droves. Amazing church growth formula, godly women. It's incredible. But, no, I'm joking. Kind of. Back to the story. But our point with the way, and here's what you need to understand and track with me for about 30 seconds. Our point with the way was not an alternative college people, 18 to 28-year-old church service because our church is kind of old and outdated and we don't like young people. Our point was, listen, our entire church is passionate about raising up emerging leaders and releasing you guys into God's kingdom in ministry. And outside of Sundays and house churches and the regular rhythm of the church, let's pour into our college students and young people in a more intentional, more deliberate way. And our goal was not a church service for college students. Our goal was to help you grow in Jesus in greater ways and help you build community. Now, fast forward a few years. In about 3 years, the way grew from 6 dudes in Michael Watson's apartment down by PSU, downtown. We moved to my parents' living room when the girls showed up. We moved to this place called G1 down the road. Anybody remember? The garage, which we called the garage because it was a garage. Because there was like a garage door and concrete and a trailer parked there, and we would move the trailer out and walk in and do church. And from there to G2, and in about 3 years, we grew from about 6 dudes in Michael's apartment to about 300 of you guys, and it was awesome. We were having a blast, seeking Jesus together. God was changing lives and reviving people's hearts, and then we opened up Building T right here, which is awesome. And we moved here about 2.5 years ago, and opening night, we jumped from like 300 to like 500 people. And I hate to use numbers, so forgive me, don't judge me. But we grew, like almost doubled in size in one night. And in 6 months, we like doubled in size and grew to like almost 1,200 people in like 6 months. And we packed the place out, and here we are about 2 years later, no room for anybody. And ever since we got here, and you guys all showed up, and we love you all to pieces. You were like the most beautiful, amazing people I know. But we have been asking the question, okay, what are we trying to accomplish here? Because now what the way looks like is a giant church service with nobody who's young and nobody who's old. Except the one difference is, at our normal church, we would ask you to give money and participate and volunteer and work with kids and work under the authority of the leadership and go to house churches and get on mission and go to Africa. Here we're like, dude, show up, drink our coffee, eat our food. We love you. You're awesome. And we do love you, don't get me wrong, and you are awesome. But for the last 2 years, we've been wondering, okay, are we doing the right deal? Is this it? Does God want us to just show up and watch and worship Jesus and sing and hear some teaching from myself or one of the guys and hang out with people and eat a free meal and go back to our lives like I hate to use the word, but more like consumers? And I'm not in any way, shape, or form blaming you guys. I love you guys to pieces. You are the most passionate, Jesus-loving group of people I've ever known in my entire journey on planet Earth. But we have been questioning, all right, what are we trying to accomplish? If our goal is a whole bunch of college students and 20-somethings in a garage for a worship teaching event, awesome. We're done. Let's enjoy life. But if our goal is different, if our goal is, listen, we are passionate about young people and we want to help young people grow as disciples of Jesus, we have been questioning, I wonder if there are better ways to do college ministry. We've been listening to you guys, getting together with groups of 2 people, 20 people, 10 people, and asking you guys questions and asking you guys about your lives. And what is emerging from our conversations with you is the crying need in your lives is community and some kind of mentoring. You are dying for some older people or older in faith who know Jesus, love Jesus, and have some maturity to walk with you for 6 months or 6 years or whatever, and to help you live your life for Jesus. And we are more and more wondering okay, are there better ways to do college ministry? Are there better ways to value you guys, pour into you guys, teach you guys, grow you guys, and release you into the kingdom of Jesus? And we have been wrestling with this, to be honest, for years now. I've been traveling and talking with authors and people who study college ministry and think about these things and pummeling people with questions and fasting and praying and seeking God, because on one hand, what I'm looking at right now is the best thing I've ever seen in ministry. On the other hand, we are wondering, could we do what we are doing better? Now, which leads me, 2 problems. Our city, desperate need of Jesus, lost, far from God. You and me, here we are. What are we trying to accomplish? It's awesome. It's fun. It's a blast. We love you guys, but we've just become a church without all of the healthy pieces of what a real healthy church looks like. And now here we are. We believe God is taking these 2 problems and leading us to some solution, and we are going to ask you guys to step out with us into some new things. Here's the deal. We are going to take the way, what we are a part of right now, and we are going to break the ministry into 3 separate but linked new things. We are not ending what's going on right here, but we are going to break what you are looking at, what we are a part of, because a ministry is not a time slot or a night of the week or a formula. Song, reading, song, announcements, teaching, song, doxology, bye-bye. Like, it's not, okay? We are the way, God's people whom God's Spirit is moving in. We are the way we are God's people, God's sons and God's daughters. We're going to take us and break us and what you're looking at now into 3 separate but linked ministries. Number 1, we are, God willing, everything starts with God willing because nothing is concrete yet, but God willing, we are going to take what you are looking at now and we are going to expand the way into like a full kind of orbed conference. Either once a year or once a quarter, we don't know, somewhere between once and 4 times a year. We're going to do what we're doing now for like an entire weekend. We show up on Friday nights at like 7 and we don't go home until like Saturday nights at midnight or Sunday afternoons or something like that. Maybe we do it here. Maybe we do it like out in the country and we go camping. I have no idea. But we're going to go seek Jesus together. We're going to do it in partnership with Rock Harbor Church. Those of you know Mike Erie, our friends Mike and Todd Proctor. We're great friends with these guys because this is a church way down in Orange County, California, who's super like-minded with us and also is passionate about pouring into young people. And Mike and I are good friends, and we're going to do this kind of in collusion with those guys. The plan is, we'll see what happens, but the plan is to do like the way south and the way north. And Mike and I and some different teachers and worship bands from here and down there get together and do the conference down south one weekend and maybe rock back up here and hang out with us for the weekend up here and take an entire weekend, maybe once a year, maybe once a quarter, we don't know quite yet, and pour into you guys in a very intentional, very deliberate way for an entire weekend of teaching and worship and prayer and seeking Jesus together. Sound good? Now, the second new thing we are hoping to step out into is, God willing, we are going to start a new college ministry for those of you who are a part of Solid Rock. We recognize tons of you are from all different churches, which is great. You're welcome here. We love you. Don't go away. But for those of you who are a part of Solid Rock, we're going to start a new college ministry, which is different than what you are looking at right now. It's not going to be event-based like The Way, where the goal is some huge teaching, worship event on Friday nights. There is going to be a weekly gathering where we get together and do life together and walk with one another. But the main thrust is going to be community and mentoring. Community, we're going to open up venues for you to build relationships with people and do life and create new friendships with people that right now you don't know, and do life together, pushing one another to love Jesus with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and walk with him forever, which means we're going to do things like retreats, maybe once a month, where we take like 40 or 50 of you away to some house over the beach or up in Mount Hood or at Sun River, wherever, and we study the scriptures maybe in the morning and in the evening, but during the day we hang out, we build life together, we bear one another's burdens, we hang out, we build relationships because we value community. And I'm not just talking about, being friends with people and hanging out, but I'm talking about living together and loving one another and helping one another and bearing one another's burdens. We're also hoping to do things like smaller venues, not like giant here where you walk in and you're like, holy smokes, I'm shy, but smaller venues, like Bible studies and early morning studies and small groups and house churches led by young people right here in the garage right now, where we open up doors for you to build relationships with people your own age and walk through life together. There is going to be a weekly gathering. We are hoping to hire a college pastor, somebody who's going to pour into you guys full-time, 6 days a week, loving on you guys and helping you grow in Christ. But the next thrust and focus of the ministry is going to be, I'm not sure what we're going to call it right now. We are thinking about calling it spiritual parenting, which is in essence taking people who are older in the church. We have hundreds of people who are older and care about you guys and love you guys and are passionate about you guys, and helping them, teaching them, training them, equipping them how to mentor and disciple and love on you guys, and then taking those of you who desire mentorship, who desire somebody to walk with you for a year or 2 years and help you live life and become disciples of Jesus, and putting the two of you together to do life on life in very practical, very tangible, very incarnational ways. So community and mentorship and spiritual parenting in some kind of a weekly gathering. Now, number 3, the third thing we are hoping for, and here's the big, exciting one. Are you ready? No? Let's pretend like you are. I am. I'm like super excited. We are going to take the way, what you are looking at right now, this move of God to God's glory by his mercy, which makes no sense in my mind, but is a move of God. We're going to take the way, we're going to pick it up, we're going to move it from Friday nights to Saturday nights, from right here in Building T out in the suburbs, downtown, the West End, the heart of the city, from being a college ministry with age parameters, 18 to 28, no young people or old people, to anybody and everybody, but I think by its nature it's going to be for the most part us, Saturday nights, downtown. And we're going to take the way and we are going to plant a church downtown in the heart of the city. But let me clarify. It's not going to be a separate entity from Solid Rock. We are going to become one church in 2 locations. Everybody say one church in 2 locations out loud. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. One church in 2 locations, which means we are going to become one church, one leadership team, same pastors, same elders, same theology, same DNA, same culture, same teaching over the weekend, but in 2 locations, downtown and out here on the west side. Which means if you are a part of Solid Rock or you're with us or whatever, you're going to pick one of the 2, either Solid Rock downtown, and you're going to make your way downtown on Saturday nights and seek Jesus right down in the heart of the city. We are renting out, by the grace of God, First Baptist Church, which is incredible. 1,000 seats, huge balcony right in the West End, right by Ace Hotel, Stumptown, Powell's Books, American Apparel, like right there, right where thousands of people go on Saturday nights to hang out. I think we have some pictures, maybe. Yes, there we are. Gorgeous. I think we have 1 or 2 pictures. 1,000 seats, massive balcony, stained glass. Please don't break when we go down there, guys. The building is amazing. Let's look at one of the outside. It's like Robin Hood's castle. It's amazing. And it's right down in the West End. There's parking all around. It's safe. It's not dangerous. And the plan is to go down there as a huge mass of people right into the heart of the city on Saturday nights and reach out to people who do not know Jesus. You pick either Saturday nights, downtown, West End, or you stay out here. Nothing is changing out here. Solid Rock, business as usual. It's going to be the same teaching I'm going to teach, or whoever is teaching downtown on Saturday nights, and then drive out here and teach here on Sundays. Same worship, same theology, same theme, different context, one urban and one suburban, but same people, one church and two locations. But the heart, why are we doing this? The entire point is to reach people who right now don't know Jesus. And to go right to where culture is made and right to where people are. I mean, you go down there tomorrow night on a Saturday night, there are, I'm not joking, thousands of young people. In the summer, there are people spilling out of the restaurants and bars and clubs and theaters and coffee shops and hotels. I mean, not only the sidewalks, into the street. And what could happen if huge numbers of us would pour out of some old building, most of the time empty, and walk a block away or 2 blocks away or 5 blocks away, eat dinner and talk to people about Jesus. We're not going to feed you guys dinner anymore after. We're going to say, listen, you get out of here, and you go eat dinner somewhere, go walk somewhere in groups of 3, 4, 5 people and invite people to church and talk to people about Jesus. And if you live down here, do life and invite your friends and people you work with. And the entire point is for us to live as missionaries. Not as spectators who go to church and watch, but as missionaries to the city of Portland who are reaching out to the world around us. But here's what you should know. We are going to a very difficult place to plant a church. Like I said, more dogs than Christians. What you may or may not know is in the city of Portland proper, not like the region, but like Portland proper, the stats are, from what I understand, 9 out of 10 church plants fail within 2 years. Portland, true story, is known all around the nation. I was talking with some church planters the other day from Texas as the church planters' graveyard. Like where church planters go to die. There was an assessor for a church planting organization who was here about 3 or 4 weeks ago on vacation, and he lives in Manhattan. In Manhattan, 95% of the population does not go to church, worse than here. And he was here with his wife on vacation, and he was staying downtown, right about 2 or 3 blocks away from the church, I think. And he said, in his opinion, this is a guy who goes all over the world helping people plant churches. He said, in his opinion, Portland is the most secular, godless city he's ever seen in his entire life. The dude lives in Manhattan. Dang. And we are going to the church planter's graveyard. But I think we might completely fail, or I think God might move in huge ways. I was with one of my friends who's a pastor of another one of the churches out here on the west side. Great man of God, great dude, becoming friends. And before he was pastoring his church out here, he tried to plant a church in downtown Portland for I think 2 years. And before that, he worked at one of the super old churches downtown. And he worked downtown for 2 years. He started with about 30 people. And he said, if I remember right, in 2 years, 3 people showed up outside of his 30. 2 years, 3 people. And he loves the city, lived right down there, loves the city. And he said after years of being down there, he concluded the only hope a church has of ever making it in Portland, in the urban core of the city of Portland, is if a large body of people were to go down together. And true story, about 6 or 7 years ago, I didn't know, he was going around to the suburban churches out here on the west side asking the pastors if anybody would please plant a church downtown with 200 or 300 people, or plant a campus or some kind of expression of church downtown, because he was thinking if we could just get some people who love Jesus together to go together, we could do something. And I feel like what God's been doing here among us for the last 5 years, I feel now like the entire time God was moving us here. It's kind of like when you go to a movie, you know, and there's like a surprise ending, there's like a twist at the end, like you find out Luke's father is Darth Vader. Are you serious? Right? Or whatever, you fill in the blank. What the first things, I know we all saw that movie back when we were like 2, or some of you were like not born yet, but whatever. The first thing that happens is you start to replay the film in your mind, right? And you start to reimagine the entire story through the lens of the new twist ending, and now everything makes sense. Now in retrospect, you're like, oh, now everything makes sense. And now looking back at the last 5 years and what God's done among us, I may be wrong, but now I think everything makes sense. Now I think what God was doing was preparing us for this. I think of the analogy of an incubator or a greenhouse, or think of a womb. When a baby is conceived in the womb, it's not strong enough to survive out in the open. It takes time, it takes months of growth and maturity and nutrients and vitamins and patience for it to get big enough and strong enough to where it can survive. And I wonder if what God's been doing with us now for years, unbeknownst to me, I've been thinking about this for a long time, but I wonder if what God's been doing all along was helping us, shaping us, molding us, making us, preparing us to jump out and step out in faith. Now, timeline. We are planning, God willing, on starting the church in January with the new year. For the fall, we're going to walk through the book of Nehemiah, and we're going to take the entire fall to pray and plan and prepare and get ready in our church and in our hearts to step out in faith and live as missionaries to the heart of the city Saturday nights. We are hoping to start the new college ministry also in January, or at the latest by March, and hoping for the First Way conference sometime. We are thinking in 2010. We are hoping for sometime in the spring. Now let me clarify 3 things. 1, the way is not ending. We are moving, we are changing, we are adapting to our broken city and the leading we believe of God's Spirit after years, I promise you, after years of not myself, but tons of us praying and fasting and seeking God together with an open fist saying, Jesus, this is your ministry, this is your deal, you are the lead pastor of the way. What is your heart? What is your plan? What is your will? We believe from the bottom of our hearts, this is it. The way is not ending. The way is not a time slot or a formula. It's us, and we are not ending. I hope we are taking the city of Portland by storm with the gospel of Jesus. 2, we are doing this not for ourselves. We are not doing this for ourselves. We are doing this for people who don't know Jesus, which means if you are asking right now, okay, how does this help me? How does this make my life better? How does this make my life more comfortable? The answer is it doesn't. To be honest, it makes your life more difficult. We're not going to let you show up anymore and watch. We love you guys, and now we're going to ask you to participate. Now we're going to ask you to invite people and throw your heart in and show up and help put on church and reach out and move downtown. We're going to ask you to do tons of stuff, and you can or you can't, your call, your prerogative. We're not going to let you sit and watch anymore because we love you. But this is not for ourselves. We are going to create space right in one of the most dark and empty places in our whole city for people to know Jesus. For people who right now are who knows where, doing who knows what, lost and far from the living God, to encounter him maybe for the first time, maybe back again after years of wandering. We're going to create space and open up our doors and invite people to know Jesus. And last but not least, number 3, we are asking you, going on record, we are asking you to pray about joining us. Because if this is me and the pastors and 10 or 20 of you crazies, we are doomed to failure. And we are going to be like a plane shot down on the runway. I believe this will only work if 1, the Spirit of Jesus does something miraculous, and 2, a whole bunch of you guys join with us together. And we go not as individuals, but we go as a body, we go as family, we go as brothers and sisters together. I think of Nehemiah back in our story. I'm going to end. He was living in a palace. Talk about comfort, talk about security, safety, high-paying job, enjoy. His life was great. Nothing wrong with his life. But he was willing to put his neck on the line and to leave everything, leave his comfort, leave his past, and go work for the good of his city. And I believe that God is calling us to leave our own comfort, our own safety, our own security, maybe even our own enjoyment, our own preferences. Nothing wrong with preferences. And pursue him and trust him and walk with him and break for the people of our city. As most of you know, I'm a dad. My oldest son, Jude, 3 years old, going on 4. I think of when I'm in the water and he's on the side of the pool, or the side of the boat, the edge of the boat, and my arms are out. Hey, Jude, jump, let's play, let's have fun. Jump into my arms. And he's scared to death of the water. I mean, he's 3. He's tough, but he's 3, okay? He's scared to death of the water. And every time Jude jumps, he deliberates. Should I not? And he's miserable. And Jude, let's go, let's play, jump. And he always jumps. Always. He's a sucker. He's awesome. I love my boy. He always jumps because his faith in his Father is greater than his fear of drowning. And I believe that in spite of the risk, in spite of changing something like this, which is going awesome, why would we mess with this? You guys are amazing. I believe God is calling us to jump and to leave fear for faith and leave cowardice for courage and leave comfort for compassion for people who don't know Jesus. I just made that up. That all was kind of alliterating and awesome. Are you guys with me? Hey, let's stand up.